Welcome to a heartwarming episode of In My Kitchen with Yvonne. Today, we have the pleasure of stepping into the cozy heaven of delights, where conversations brew as richly as the coffee. I'm your host, Yvonne, and I'm thrilled to have a remarkable guest joining me in my kitchen today, Liane Katz. She's a trailblazing entrepreneur, visionary writer, a tech savvy educator, and she's here with her insights, stories, and passions as we gather around the kitchen table. We'll delve into the captivating world of technology, education, emotional well being, and Leanne's latest venture, the innovative Looparoo app. So pour yourself a cup of comfort, pull up a chair, and prepare to embark on a journey of inspiration, knowledge, and authentic connection. Let's dive into the heart and soul of our conversation right here in my kitchen, where ideas simmer, flavors mingle, and stories unfold. Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. It's great to be here.
Great to have you, Leanne, and congratulations on the success of Mama Code. Can we start maybe
Thank you
with
so much.
You're welcome. Can we start with asking how technology is transforming the landscape of education and what motivated you to specifically focus on teaching kids to code?
Yes, well, it's a fascinating area, isn't it? Well, certainly to me, and I think to you too. So I guess the reason that I got involved and interested in teaching children to code, not actually being a teacher by training, and not being a technologist particularly until my mid-30s, is that I actually had a career in journalism and I was working at a newspaper, The Guardian, for a number of years, 12 years, and I got assigned to a tech project. It was like a secondment to a different building, a different team. And I realized how integrated technology had become in every career outside traditional software development. If you want to be a content creator, you needed to understand technology and be able to be literate in it. And if you want to be a marketer, and if you might maybe want to be a medic and analyze data, it was kind of creeping into all different industries. And my kids were really young at the time, they were 3 and 6. And I looked around me in the tech team, and even at such an enlightened place as The Guardian, they couldn't find female developers because there just weren't any. And 65 developers in the team, one of them was a woman. And it was really shocking to me. And I thought, I don't want my daughter to be frozen out of that. And I had felt frozen out of that through my education and my university and in my early career. And I kind of had this epiphany that, coding was everything. It made the world go round, no matter what you wanted to do in the world. It was an essential piece of your education, your skill set. It was an essential literacy in the 21st century. And I started looking at it as a parent, really, and discovered this kind of gap in the market. Started researching how, as a interested technophile parent, but not necessarily a trained software engineer, I could support the new curriculum because the coding curriculum had come in 2015 and children from year one were being asked to do some coding. And I was in year one and wanted to understand what my kids might need me to do for them, as well as the reading and the spelling list and the maths homework. How was I going to support coding? So that's really how I got into it, very much as a parent, an interested hands-on parent. And then I teamed up with two other mums in London working in tech industries. One was a software engineer turned parent blogger. The other one was a self-taught coder turned marketer. And together they already had a parenting blog, and they kind of invited me to get involved and test out one of the highest traffic pieces of content they had put on the blog for the kind of parent's guide to this new coding curriculum and how to teach your child to code, how to teach your child to code before they could read. And this had really had a big response, and they could see from that there was a lot of interest among parents. And I had become a product manager after being a journalist, and so they wanted my skills to try and test out some models. So I got obsessed with it, having seen in action some of these tests where we were teaching tiny kids of age 3 and 4 how to code. And I guess the rest is kind of history, and we'll cover it, in the rest of our conversation.
Yeah, and it's been a remarkable history, Liane. You have won lots of awards, you've had lots of accolades, and you've embarked on this unique path of merging technology, education, and well-being for children. Did you have kind of like a pivotal moment where it all came to you, and why is that really important for you?
Well, I guess having discovered this importance of STEM learning and coding skills while in, I guess, traditionally quite a kind of creative career in media that I had, I then started thinking about inclusion and how that was just so distinctly lacking in the tech industry. And so one of my real driving forces for founding the company was to inspire all children to have a go at coding and to fall in love with it at a young age before any biases set in. And I felt that getting into early years and key stage 1 stage education was really key, because there's a kind of STEM cliff where girls fall off and don't think it's cool. There's peer pressure not to be so interested in STEM around age 9 to 12, I believe. And so I kind of wanted to change that. I wanted to reinvent coding education. I wanted to present it in a really thrilling way. So I could see the pain point at the end of the talent pipeline in the industry lacking. There's a huge diversity gap. Gender diversity, ethnicity diversity, ageism, it was all there, plain to see. And then as a parent, I could see the pain point of, I don't know what my kid's doing. I don't understand it. I need more parent education. Yeah. And my daughter, who's very creative, was not engaged in whatever she was doing in year 1. So whatever the provision was, I wasn't very happy with it. And so these all kind of came together, and we started experimenting with existing technologies and tools and apps and languages developed by MIT in Boston, rather than reinvent the wheel as non-educationists. We wanted to see how the landscape existed already and how we could perhaps add a layer of information and inspiration for parents and then actually teachers to get more excited about this new ICT curriculum and more empowered about it. So we actually went to the Vet Show and we spoke to a lot of teachers, and it was clear that there was quite an appetite for easy, simple, accessible content and training that made this early stage of coding relevant and accessible to them. And the way that we broke through was actually by mimicking the techniques used by early literacy teaching, which pretty much everyone in early years and key stage 1 is pretty confident about. Is the bread and butter, isn't it? So by using repeated patterns of language and songs and even jokes and creating our own curriculum in that way, we were able to leverage the existing confidence that teachers and parents had around developing language in young children, and then present coding as yet another language rather than a mysterious STEM skill that was inaccessible. So that was kind of the moment, I guess, that we found there was appetite, people would engage, they were delighted with the content and the curriculum. And then we started running our classes using our curriculum, and we were able to fill them in different pilot areas in London. We had 3 pilot locations, and in 15 months we grew that to 35 classes a week. So there was kind of stages of validation, I guess you would say, in the idea as we started to get going with the business.
Oh, that's nothing short of inspirational, Liane. Because just recognizing that and then going out and doing something about it, it's something that a lot of people don't do. So for you to be able to do that and then to win awards, it usually indicates a deep impact. Would it be possible for you to tell us a particularly heartwarming or memorable testimonial from a parent or a student who experienced the benefits of Mama Code firsthand?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few that spring to mind. So we've now taught over 4,000 children some coding, at least one session, and many of them stay with us for a couple of years. And we do observe quite a correlation between the students we receive and a number of different profiles. Sometimes it's a SEN profile, often autism spectrum condition, and quite often children who perhaps have other learning needs and are not thriving in the traditional curriculum. And when they come to us, they're learning in such a different way. It's a visual block language that they're learning. It's extremely logical. There really are no exceptions to rules which can confuse them. And they thrive and they fly and they gain so much confidence. And their parents are so delighted because it's something that they excel at when they're constantly challenged in a traditional learning environment. So there's a couple of boys in particular who I have in mind who came to class and didn't speak all that much and were really underconfident and very shy. Had always been told, that they were struggling and they were behind, as said their parents. And they were so great at coding from the first day that they'd sort of leapfrogged the rest of the class. And then it was coming around full circle with comments from home, comments from the child, and comments from their teachers, where they were spotlighting this child for what they had produced in their coding club. And we were able to, send videos of some of the creations they'd made in their coding languages. And just the confidence leap was huge. So I sort of feel, as a mum of a child with mild SEN needs as well, I feel so, rewarded. I feel doubly rewarded by the impact on a child with that profile than everyone else in the class, because they've just had to work so much harder and they've struggled so much more prior to discovering us. So I think those are probably my proudest moments, are really transforming the confidence and mastery, sense of mastery and agency in those children.
And it must be doubly rewarding for you as well, because if you look at most coding schools, they're normally a lot older children, but you start quite young, don't you? So that must be quite rewarding.
It's noisy. It's noisy, but it's so much fun. I actually spent the last 2 weeks teaching camps myself, in the holiday camps, and it had been a while since I'd been interacting as the main lead teacher in a camp, and I just loved it. It was such a breath of fresh air from actually running the business and planning and strategic planning and doing all the aspects of the admin and the finance to actually get back in front of kids
and get that joy from it. The other side of that, though, one thing we tend to hear quite a lot about is concerns about screen time for kids. How would you say Mama.Code strikes a balance between technology exposure and maintaining a healthy lifestyle for young minds?
This is such an important question. I'm really glad you raised it. And it is a concern for a lot of our parent community and potential students and their families. And it's a really valid concern. So I'm a mum of two. I see it every day, the kind of guilt about how much time and how much access your children should have, how much supervision you need to give them. And it actually prompted me to really research this and look at some of the research papers and the data around benefits and harms in terms of young people and teens and children and their screen use. And it's actually a lot more nuanced a picture than a lot of parents give time to believe. So I think a lot of parents, myself included, it's very easy to have a knee-jerk reaction about screen time. It's just by definition bad. It's replacing other things. Back in our day, we didn't have it and we don't understand it. And it should be managed, and it's like the forbidden fruit. And, anything would be better than screen time. So we have to limit it and we have to feel bad about it. And we all have to have a lot of negativity about it. And actually, it's clear that there needs to be a balance. We can't have too much time on screens displacing important time in social interaction with other people in real life. We can't have too much screen time displacing physical exercise and activity, being outside in the fresh air. But there is a place for it, because in the modern world, as adults, we live on devices and we make use of technology all the time, or we certainly should, in a mindful way. So we have to educate our young people about technology, and we have to accept that our young people are going to be using it increasingly at school, increasingly at home to do their schoolwork, but also for leisure, because play and a child's experience in the real world and in the virtual world cuts across both, doesn't it? Offline and online. And one of the core motivating factors for me in founding Mama Codes, as well as giving more driving inclusion in the industry and giving more children a chance to participate in this incredible future-ready skill. It was also about managing screen time in a more knowledgeable and empowered way as a parent, finding more positive activities that the children could do if they were going to be desperate to be on screens. Maybe they could be creative on the screen instead of passive. I wanted them to be thinking, I wanted them to be planning and creating projects, and rather than just screen staring passively and watching things that adults had made, consuming games that adults had made, or playing games which kind of drove up their cortisol and stopped them sleeping. So as part of all of that research, we actually started a stream of content we produce called Raising Digital Kids. And that includes how to keep children safer online, how to teach them to keep themselves safer online, suggestions on positive uses of time online so that it's more interactive and creative than passive and bad for their health. And also really engaging children in the conversation about how much screen time is healthy. Why do we want to limit it? And why as a family do we all need to buy into it? And one of the ways I found helpful to start those conversations, really with kids of any age from three up, is I'm a bit, is to say, well, I'm a bit worried about screen time. Do you want to know why? Let's talk about all the reasons that it can damage our sleep and our health and our attention span and all of these things. Do you think that I need to think about my screen time as a parent, as a grown-up? And of course they want to tell you that you're always on your phone and actually they feel ignored. And that for me is actually one of the biggest issues that we're missing as adults, is that we're all glued to our screens and our children are not getting the focused, uninterrupted attention that they deserve and need. And yet we're always on their case hypocritically about their screens. So I think something I speak about quite a lot, and we have a free newsletter on this and a Facebook group as well, all called Raising Digital Kids, is start with holding up the mirror, allow your children to have that conversation with you about what they might want you to change, because then you can actually reasonably have a conversation with them about why you think that maybe we should have a solid hour at least between using screens and going to bed. And that actually goes for all the adults and other members of the family in the house, and what kind of risks there might be to your health in terms of using the screen too much, and what you might find on there and what you do about it, because inevitably, unfortunately, they will have a inappropriate content incident at some point on there, and they need to know what to do, and that your communication is still kept open with their trusted adult. Even if they do the wrong thing, they need to know that they can still come to you and say, I'm still really upset by something I saw, for example.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really, really challenging area for parents, but it's important to actually have some education available in that area too.
Yeah, that's a really good point you've raised. We don't generally, as adults, have that conversation with our children for fear that they will point the finger back at us and go like, hold on a minute. But then we're the ones telling them sometimes that, we're concerned about their screen time. So I think the way you're dealing with it, by having those conversations, by ensuring that they are having more creative ways to use technology is available to them, is a better approach. And I suppose this is also the reason behind your new app, Looparoo, which we shall be discussing later. Before we jump into Looparoo,
yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Before we jump into Looparoo, I'd like us to maybe look at well-being, because we find that your company's focus on well-being is quite intriguing. And just quite rightly how you said how you handle it as well. So how do you build emotional well-being in everything that you do? Could you maybe talk a little bit about your experience with it overall?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess well-being is something really close to my heart. I've struggled with it myself at times in my career, and as a founder, as a company CEO, it's a stressful business. I've got 2 kids. I've just finished a big building project, which has sent me over the edge at times. But what I really try and do, and it's still a work in progress, is really talk with my team a lot about how we can structure the business and their roles and the time that they work and the communication channels that we use to suit them. as individuals. So we're all accountable team members. We need to do the tasks we say we're going to do in the time frame we discuss, and we need to send the deliverables round, and we need to allow time for others to input. But as far as possible, we actually work very, very asynchronously. So we have a devolved remote team. We work flexibly, and this all happened way before COVID made the rest of the world sort of try these things and love or loathe them. My business partner and I meet up once or twice a week in town, in central London. We live on the opposite ends of Greater London, so we have to do that. But the rest of the time, we live on Zoom. We have done for years. And most of our tutors who teach the classes for us, our live taught classes, never need to, unless they want to come to a team social, online or in real life. They never need to actually come and meet us. They don't need to be in a place at a certain time other than for the specific classes that they teach. And that has led to us attracting and retaining some fantastic people who have a lot of caring responsibilities, or they study alongside, and they just simply wouldn't be able to work in other roles. So it's been really fundamental for diversity in our business. We are an entirely female-founded and business, and the board is entirely female. The teaching team is over 70% female and over 40% from diverse backgrounds as well. And that's something we're really proud of as a company, and we try and take diversity to all sorts of other areas, including flexible working. And we feel that that's actually really, really important. It doesn't always work for every profile of person. If they're a student and they have particular shifts and things, then obviously they want to know they're working at this time and someone will answer them because they can't be on at another time. And we flex to that as far as we can. But most of the ways that we've introduced are to allow people to work when they have time, ideally without paying for formal childcare, if that's a factor for them, and not to feel hounded or interrupted at the times that they're off. So we actually developed all these ways of working, and then I was finding, as the person in the middle of the web, I was never off, and my children said to me, "You're always on your phone at my bedtime. You know, what's going on?" All the people with babies would surface at 7 and start pinging me, and actually 7 to 9, they were older, my children, and that was their time. So we had a bit of a think, and we came up with a etiquette that really think twice before using WhatsApp for work, particularly at a time like a weekend or an evening. Feel free as a team member to actually put on your status, "I'm unavailable, I'm with my family," or "I'm doing something else, I'm sleeping," excuse me, and then be mindful not to message people at other times. And then we actually, for email and for anything interruptive, we started having a little prefix of P1, priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3, so that if you get a message, you know that feeling, you get a message from your boss or your co-worker and you think, "Oh, what do they want? It must be urgent." We try to get rid of that feeling and feeling always on and needing to always respond. P1 is actually, it's a bit of an emergency. Our website's fallen over like level, or someone really needs a call right now. There's a problem with a customer who needs to speak to us, or there's a safeguarding concern or something really urgent. Quite rare, right? I mean, that actually reduces the number of important, urgent, high stress messages right down. P2 means I can't progress my work until you respond to this. I need you to help me to continue what I'm doing. That's quite a chunk of work, but it's good to know, isn't it, that that's a fairly high priority, but it could say P2 urgent, P2 not urgent. And P3, an amazingly large chunk of communication, is just so you know, FYI. And actually, that can really reduce the stress of inbound communication for people for whom, you know, they're at the center of things, lots of different teams, lots of different projects. And so that's something that's really, really helped across the business. We have other tools that we use as well in terms of task management online tools, which mean that if I'm working on a project with someone, I don't have to ping them and ask them what the status is of their work and have they done this and have they done that, because I can just look on the Trello board and it will be updated. It's in progress, it's done, it's blocked. They have questions. So we've developed some, I think, pretty cool systems to try and support this kind of calmer way of working, which is very, very productive and it's very engaged, but you can also have your head down. And I know that if I really need to put my head down for an hour and a half on a proposal or something strategic, if someone needs me, they really needs me, they'll phone me and I can actually just turn my phone over because I'm a highly distractible extrovert. slightly ADHD type brain. I need to just get rid of the distractions, put my earplugs in and get something done. But it's taken me a long time to get there. Earlier in the business, I was always thinking I needed to be available all the time for everyone because we were growing and we were new and we needed to engage everyone and keep them happy. And actually now I've tried to learn to grow into a scarcity mindset. I'm not always available. And if people need to book the time with me, it needs to be for a good reason. And they can see on my to-do list, which is public, how busy I am. And if they want to put a task in, it has to go in a prioritized list. So it may well be that it's more important than everything else, but at least they can see what the everything else is. It's all quite visible and transparent. So as much as possible, we try and work in that way where everyone's aware of the load everyone else has. And I think that's another really important factor, as well as the etiquette about when you can interrupt and when you expect a response back.
I love that, Liane. I will be bending your ear for some of these productivity and well-being tips, and I'm sure my team's going to be listening to this, going like, "You can learn a few things here."
It's still a work in progress. It's always a work in progress, but I think it's so important to be consciously trying to improve things all the time, and always questioning and trying to be quite objective and dispassionate about it. It's something that I learned when I was working with software developers all the time. This idea of a retrospective. So you have your project and you have your daily stand up in the morning, like what's going on today, what's absolutely critical to get done, do I need your help to do that? And am I blocked? We really don't want anyone to be blocked and unable to move forward. And then at the end of the project or the sprint, a very dispassionate look back at what went well, what didn't, and why. And so many industries don't do that, right? It's highly internally political, or it's personal, and no one can sort of admit any sort of failure. And I think at the times that we've grown the most and we've been the most successful, and companies are not a straight line, there's all sorts of wiggles and leaps and troughs. It's because we've actually been able to have that perspective and take a step back and think, why is it not going so well? Why is it going so well? What can we learn from it? How do we replicate that? And actually, did we come up against some issues? How do we solve them? I think it's a really, really good thing for people to have that scheduled ability to feedback and it not be taken personally, or they worry that would weaken their career prospects.
I remember when I trained for my PGC and then I became a teacher, one of the things that we were always almost drilled into us was the WWW and EBI, and then the sandwich feedback. And as you rightfully say, it's so important. I suppose we never really relate that to well-being, do we? It just seems like a way of we're doing tasks, a way of looking back when we've done tasks, but it's actually, you quite rightfully say, it actually impacts on our well-being if we can take a moment and look back, if we can realize the way that we work. One big thing and that we're doing, as the Teachers Champion, is teaching teachers their persona so that they can be able to do a teacher's checkup once a year and see how are they doing according to their checkup. And some of these things we kind of like just do them without realizing that, hold on a minute, you're dealing with people here, put people first, and then everything else is going to work out right. And this brings us really nicely to your upcoming app, Looparoo. So this is the next step up for you, and congratulations, Liane, for your app. Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek into what this app is all about and how it ties into Mama Codes?
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. Thanks for that. I was hugely excited about Looparoo. So Looparoo is the first kind of sub-brand under the Mama Codes umbrella. To date, we have done a lot of work in live taught classes. So we teach a lot of sessions online, we teach school clubs, and we teach holiday camps. And there's always a teacher, a trained tutor from our business standing in front of a group of children, either online or in the room. And what the app allows us to do is to reach just thousands more children at a lower price point for the family or the school who's buying the account. and it allows them to progress at their own pace, at convenient times for them, and without the need for a trained staff member delivering the content. So we feel it's hugely exciting and democratizing. We really have ambitions to take it global as well as rolling it out in the UK first. And in terms of what the app does and how it looks, it's a self-serve learn to code app for 3 to 7-year-olds. So we've really started at the very beginning of their coding journey. And it's we describe it as the most magical codeverse on the internet. It's full of very appealing characters who are deliberately non-gendered and very fun and cute. If you sort of think of a mixture of like Dora the Explorer and Duolingo, I guess it's like teaches us the language of coding with some very cute characters in it. So children are guided by narrated instructions. I'll say that again. So children are guided by narrated instructions voiced by children in a very engaging way. So they don't have to read anything. It's very accessible to pre-readers, and they are guided through a series of lessons. But for them, it's gameplay. It's missions to solve various challenges and help the characters on their kind of superhero missions. And once they learn complete the first missions, they're actually building their coding skills, which are then reinforced and extended through the progressive courses. At the moment, it's very much the first MVP, the first draft of the app. It's the first version, and it has a single pathway for all children of different ages. Obviously, as we progress and we add content and courses, we can differentiate when you drop into the pathway as to what age you are and what any prior experience with coding. But every coding interface is different, and I think it's important that everyone is shown how it works to minimize frustration and get them feeling a sense of mastery as quickly as possible. We've tried very carefully to make it cross-curricular, so these missions are not just about learning coding in a dry way. That's absolutely the opposite of what Mama Codes is about. Our sort of flavor of coding experience is always that it's exciting, it's light bulb moments, it's that feeling that they've achieved something, they've made something happen by learning coding, and that it's a means to an end to achieve something that's in their imagination. So we always explain to our newest students that, they get to be the boss of the computer or the iPad or the tablet that they're working with. And it just has to do exactly what they say. And how many times in a small child's life do they get to be the boss? They're always being told what to do. So they genuinely love the tables being turned, and that coding is this kind of magic language that they can wave their wand and come up with the spells that they want to say, and then things happen. And there's genuine delight and quite often quite a lot of screeching and squealing as well when they do that for the first time.
Oh, brilliant. Community funding is a unique approach to supporting the development of Looparoo. Would it be possible for you to elaborate on how this initiative works and how individuals can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So crowdfunding is something that we have successfully done before. So Mama Codes is 6 years old, and quite soon in the journey, my business partner Rumbi joined me and helped me to secure an initial £100,000 investment. And we planned actually to do a crowdfund, which is where anyone is welcome to invest any amount from £10 up. And usually the crowd that develops becomes kind of your evangelists and your early adopter customers, and you get a fantastic community benefit from building this investment pool of people. There are two types of crowdfunding, if you're not familiar with it. One of them is where you effectively buy shares in the company, so that's called equity crowdfunding, and that's what we're pursuing. So people who invest in the company actually receive shares, a small percentage of the company that they own, and as the company value goes up through our development and our growth, then the value of that shareholding goes up. Obviously, it can go the other way as well with any business, so it's important if you're thinking about getting involved in crowdfunding to understand the risks and only really invest something that you wouldn't miss for a while or at all if things don't go to plan, because it is a high risk, high reward kind of strategy. The other form of crowdfunding, it should be said, is platforms like Indiegogo, where actually you're effectively buying a product in advance. It hasn't been created or manufactured yet. You don't get shares in the company, but you get the future product at a sort of lower price, and you get to be the early bird, you get to test it for free, and you get other rewards. So we're pursuing the equity investment avenue again, which we've successfully done before. And we last time actually secured the money we needed to develop the app. So our customers and others helped us to actually raise the funds to develop the app in the first place. Then COVID came along, so we've had a little pause where we focused on educating thousands of children from home, flipping the venue-based business into an online business. But we've been quietly testing the app and developing the content in the background, and now we're ready to launch it. So we are crowdfunding again to invest heavily in the tech and the content and the team and the marketing. So yeah, super excited to be out of that pandemic phase and back into our kind of strategic growth phase.
Wow. Well, so how do people get involved then?
Yeah, so to find out more about our crowdfund, if we visit the website, www.mama.codes, CODES, I'm sure that'll be in the show notes somewhere, then there is a big button about crowdfunding, and you can see all the information that we provide around our performance and our plans. And then if you register your email, we will send you further information and the chance to come on a webinar and meet us and ask any questions that you would like, or arrange a private one-to-one meeting if you prefer. We would love to hear from you, love your questions. And I've just found prior crowdfunding such an amazing experience as a founder, because people have such great perspectives and ideas and challenge. It's quite a lonely place actually being a founder, especially in a remote business. And sharing your ideas and someone saying 90% of that is really great, but the 10% I have an issue with is this, have you thought about this? And actually quite often it's just so helpful, and you can refine your plans and your business model based on people with fantastic experience, often in many sectors, but seasoned entrepreneurs, seasoned people in different industries. So if you're inspired or excited about what we're building and the way we're trying to do it in a kind of compassionate and inclusive way, we'd love to hear from you, any feedback or thoughts or suggestions. And if you're interested in the crowdfund, please do register your email and we can send you more information.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Liane. We've learned so much today about the power of technology, about how it can be so useful in reducing the gender gap when it comes to STEM subjects. We love you, Liane's and Mama Code unique perspective on this very important side of our young children's lives and the future of work, and also about what Liane and her team are building in Looparoo. And we really hope that we can all support her and Mama Codes in this new venture. Thank you so much, Liane, for joining us. It's been fantastic getting to know you, and really fantastic spending some time together. And we really hope that you can come back again once Looparoo has been launched and tell us all about it. We're really looking forward to it.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been a brilliant conversation.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so there you have it, viewers. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, and for another time in my kitchen. And as we wind down, don't forget to show you some TLC today. Until the next time, this is us signing off from the Teacher's Concierge.